Guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Monette. I am an intuitive, empath, writer, chef, radio host, a lot of things. So I wanted to talk to you today about something that I have been working on in my own personal journey, which is the connection between obesity and the empath. As an empath professionally, working with clients for many years, I have noticed that some of the empaths that I coach or work with have a similar thing in common. Can we guess what that is? It is that we empaths tend to hold weight. Now, I will be honest, full disclosure, YouTube, I am obese. I am not just overweight. So I am not just a regular person. I don't know if that means I'm extra gifted, but what I do know is that it has been the thing that I have dealt with in my life. I won't call it a struggle anymore because I'm really paying attention to what I speak into my life at this point, but it has definitely been an opportunity for growth, and I feel like I'm onto something. I feel like I am growing. In the last year, I have lost some poundage. It has been very nice. I've lost about 75 pounds last couple years, really. And that happened with some extreme changes to my diet and allergies and finding yourself, because our body has a way of saying, hello, you're not paying attention to me. And so we get wake-up calls, don't we? First they start as a pebble, and then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Well, with the empath, you will always have wake-up calls about your body. Even if you were a thin empath, you might find that you gravitate towards more sugary or junk-like foods in order to cope. What are we coping with, you might ask? What we are coping with is the ability to distill and process and disseminate the energy that comes to us rapidly from many sources. So as an empath, we are often looking around, reading rooms, reading the energy of relatives, friends, parents, loved ones, and clients if you are working professionally in this field. And that's a lot of energy to deal with. And so what I want to bring to your attention is that you are not crazy for thinking that there is some kind of connection to your gift and your weight, because there absolutely is. Now, here's what I want to do today. I want to talk about 5 things that really I've noticed in my journey that have helped me to lose some weight and to continue to be on the process in regards to losing weight. I will also speak to you a little bit about what I do specifically, but with this caveat. This is not going to be Watch My Journey channel. This channel is about spiritual things as a whole and ways that they tie into our life, whether that be politically, creatively, pop culture. We'll talk about a plethora of things, but I feel like it's important for me to be honest about this because I notice a lot of my sisters and kindred spirits and brothers in the metaphysical world are struggling here with this. And I know that I'm struggling, and every burden you think you get is an opportunity to not just be better, but to teach and really internalize the lesson of what you think your burden is, okay? So for me, that has been weight. Now, this happened, we talked about in the last video, narcissistic injury happening to a parent, or having something happen where a parent starts to become a narcissist that's draining your energy and all of that stuff. So for me, that was my experience. A lot of tie-in and connection to my first paternal relationship with my father. A lot of negative reinforcements and stereotypes and things in regards to food. A lot of feeding, and then not just discarding, but putting down, even though there were instructions to go get the food out of the freezer. There were always junk kept, all of that stuff. Now, I will be honest, my father dealt with a couple of things. There was some mental illness, obviously. I would say it would be bipolar. It was not diagnosed. In the African American, West Indian, Caribbean community, mental health issues are not really discussed, but that is what I would diagnose, so I'm not a doctor. Bipolar, definitely a narcissist. Definitely a narcissist, and incredibly abusive on many levels. However, I say that not just to bash him, but it's for you to make your personal connection with where you might have become an empath. And that empaths are born out of childhood trauma more often than not, where we're learning to overcompensate. It reminds me almost of a keloid. For people that get keloids, or those things in your ear where it seems like there's extra scar tissue growing, there's an injury that happens and your body's always trying to heal that thing, and then it grows and grows and grows. Any growth on your body, that's usually what's happening. Something happened and then your body is compensating for that over and over and over. Well, empaths, that's what your fat cells are about. The traumatic injury is held in your adipose tissue. Each cell of your body remembers the pain, the rejection, the feelings of shame, the feelings that you were too much, the feelings that you were taking over. All of that is stored. And that's why fat cells never really disappear. They get smaller and smaller and smaller, but they don't ever fully go away because we are literally carrying around our baggage. So that being said, I don't want to just bore you with the sad reality of what's happening, but I want to talk about why when that injury happens, we start to grow in size in order to, one, protect ourselves. That's the first thing that comes to mind, is the need for protection. We are protecting ourselves. When you have an abusive parent or an addicted parent or anything where you are not the focus as a child should be in life, in those formative years, you will find ways to find comfort and protection. If that parent wasn't capable of I love yous and was playing mind games and rejection like mine did, you will find ways to medicate yourself. And because he was a bit cruel, twisted, and sometimes quirky and charming and funny, we'll do another video about that, about the complexity of loving your narcissistic parent. But we'll pause on that. Because those things were happening, he also taught me how to cope with food. Even though he was of fine weight, very muscular, all of that stuff, he had his own addictions and things like that in regards to food. But what I want to say is he taught me how to cope. So if he wasn't loving me, then maybe that Klondike bar would. Or if he wasn't loving me, then maybe the strawberry ice cream would. You know, the sugary, carby, sweetie things. That was me. That was our jam. If I tried to diet, even at a young, unhealthy age of dieting, you know, I was punished and I was actually physically abused, beat, because how dare I request boiled chicken instead of fried? So it was a catch-22. How can you try to be healthy? How dare you have your own autonomy? That's not what I've decided for you. And it also meant that I wouldn't be the punching bag. It means that I wouldn't have been the person that he could say there was an issue here and do all kinds of things. I'll do a whole video about my interaction with my narcissistic father so that if there are any similarities that you see, you can start to notice the patterning, okay? Because we come upon this information at different times in our journey. But the first thing is a need for protection. I was physically abused, so I needed protection. I was emotionally and mentally abused, and I needed protection. I had all of the abuses, and I needed protection in different areas, not just from my father, but I'm just saying I needed protection, and I needed to be okay. The next thing is chronic self-denial. As an empath, we're taught to take care of the needs of everybody else around us. Our needs come last. Our needs are not important. You're asking too much. Support, support, support. Cheerlead, cheerlead, cheerlead. So that's what I learned how to do. So in that chronic self-denial, I would deny myself all day. I would say, okay, I'm not going to ask for anything. I'm not going to be a burden to anybody because I was always constantly told that I was too much. So then after a day of not asking for anything or saying, hey, that hurt my feelings, or I don't like that, or no, and having boundaries, then I would go home and self-medicate or go to fast food and self-medicate with that because I denied myself all day. So I deserve that cheeseburger and fries, or I deserve that croissant, or fill in the blank for whatever your trigger food is, okay? That chronic self-denial. Because when you are an empath, your needs come last. That's what you're taught. That is not the truth. We'll talk about that. That's not the reality. That is what you were taught, is that your needs don't matter and are not as important as everybody else, okay? So that's the second thing. The third thing is not deserving. You're not deserving. You feel as though you're not deserving. And so what happens is that you start to tell yourself you don't deserve anything. And your body hears that because we're always communicating with others and with ourselves without words. And our body's always, always communicating with us. So you feel like you don't deserve love. And you feel like you shouldn't ask for anything. So your body says, oh, I better start holding on to every single thing because she's in the spirit of lack. She's in an energy and a vibration of lack. She doesn't deserve anything. So I need to hold on to this extra fat because we might need it someday, because she is depriving herself of basic allowance of human interaction, of basic care, of holding people accountable. She doesn't deserve it. So we deserve to hold on to this fat for safety. So that's the third thing. Feelings being stuffed down is number 4. Yikes. That's something I so can relate to. Being angry with people, knowing that someone had crossed a boundary, knowing that my father had crossed boundaries, knowing that my best friends that were narcissistic crossed boundaries, but not advocating for myself. That's something that I really push with my clients now, is be your own advocate, because there were so many years that I wasn't. And you know who was my advocate? The food. The food was my advocate. The food helped me to feel better in that moment. I would take on something and I would extend myself to people that I thought needed me, and I would take on their problems, as we empaths do, and then I would find myself eating and eating and eating at the end of the night because I was exhausted, and I'd feel good in that moment that I ate, but then I'd hate, the self-loathing would come, and the nasty things the narcissist had said would be confirmed about me and food and fat and where I would be. And so, or who I could be or who I couldn't be. It wasn't until I distanced myself and cut off and went no contact with some of the narcissists and gray rocked some other of them, that I was able to start to find my amazing, freaking amazing self. And I don't say that with an air of cockiness. I am so grateful to have gotten to know myself. An empath, intuitive, and healer, if you're watching, I'm so excited for you to get to know yourself outside of the view and ideology of your narcissist, because that is broken and rotten thinking. So that is the 4th thing. Feelings being stuffed down and not expressed. I was so angry. And you know, they say what depression is rage turned inward. Well, when you are carrying this extra weight, there's a lot of depression, those memories, and each one of those cells and all of that adipose tissue. So I was enraged. And so what I did was I engorged myself. Okay? That's real talk. Whether you're skinny or fat, if you're an empath, what are you engorging yourself with? What are you ingesting to excess to medicate away the feelings of being the emotional doctor for the people around you? So the 5th thing was tied into the, say like 3 and 4, feeling that you cannot, 4 and 5 would be tied together, feeling that you cannot express your truth or who you are. Kind of knew that I was awesome. Kind of knew that I had a lot to offer, but I kept getting like the buzzer sound from all of my narcissists every time that I would poke my head up and be like, hey, I have this cool thing to offer, or this other thing, or wow, someone gravitated to me and I was able to help. There was jealousy and issues and criticisms and all that stuff that came from myself, but also came from my narcissist directed to me. The criticisms from me, the jealousy, the other feelings from the outside sources of the narcissist. And so I used food. Also, we tend to use food for affection. So I wanted to love myself, but it wasn't until a few years ago that I started to really do. And I'm still in process. I am still walking through this. And that's why I decided to put this here on YouTube, because I feel like it is so important to acknowledge your shame. The work of Brene Brown has been groundbreaking for me. It has literally broken the soil of hard soil, compacted soil that I had packed down and stuffed all my feelings down. Brene Brown and Carolyn Myss and others that are talking about doing their work across their fields. Some psychologists, some metaphysical practitioners. The point is that I learned that shame is what's kept me at this size. That I'm not a vibrational match for release because I've been holding on to it and not wanting to put my face with my body out here. Well, here I am, guys. This is it. There's nothing to be ashamed of. I have a purpose and so do you. But when you are an empath and you are medicating with food, I don't know if you're getting to your full purpose. Now, if you would have asked me that years ago, I would have said, no, I'm still doing my work. I'm still working. I was employed professionally in a path that is completely different than I ever thought I would be actually doing. But was I as effective for myself and for others? There is clarity when you get your food noise down. That means you're better at your job. You're a better reader. That's just a little food for thought. No pun intended. Forgive me here. I got my little notes. So I want to talk to you about vibrational match to food. This is something that I came across from Teal Swan that I thought was incredibly potent. And I just wanted to share the idea and put my spin on it. People get different results from eating food because people have different vibrational set points relative to food. That was a quote from Teal Swan. People get different results from eating food because people have a different vibrational set point relative to food. Now, I started the day off with a 2-hour conversation with a friend, a metaphysical friend, about food and our relationship to it. Now, she has lost weight and has done well. She wasn't that overweight anyway, about 20 pounds, but she's lost weight. We were just talking about food and her ideas and my ideas, and she said something like, Monette, I've never seen you binge, or I've never seen you whatever. Now, guys, I love my sweets and stuff like that. And I have to abstain when I'm actually clear-headed because that is my trigger food. But so I'm no perfect specimen. But what she was expressing was, I've been around you in intimate settings. I have seen you. We've gone on vacations and things like that. And I see you eat well. What's going on? Man, when Teal said that, it was like epiphany, epiphany, epiphany. I have a different vibrational set point relative to food. Let's talk about the connection. Narcissist dad, food injuries, meaning when I say food injuries, what I mean is that there was a lot of noise around food. I was force-fed slimming shakes and programs and things like that. And if I threw up, I still had to eat it. I still had to drink it. I still had to consume it because with him standing over me, domineering, because he couldn't have a fat daughter. So there's a lot of weird stuff going on in my head about food. It always has been. I didn't realize there was so much noise about it. And then the backwards love with him about, oh, eat this and we're buddies, but oh, you don't want to eat this and we're buddies, or you're too big or whatever. So it was a lot of mixed signals and head games. So I don't have a good vibration with food. I didn't realize that. It's dawned on me over the past few years, but when I heard Teal Swan say it, I was like, that makes so much sense. How come I'm eating broccoli and chicken and I'm still my size? I still feel like I need to be protected. That is really the touchstone to what's going on here. And as I've lost weight, I've gradually known that I don't need as much protection on a subconscious level, but I'm still holding on to a lot of weight. So what's going on? That's what we're going to figure out together. Now, I'm telling you, this is not going to be a channel about macros, my calories. I might talk about food and things like that because if it suits me, I will. But I don't want you to get focused on the how to and show me how to live a perfect life, because obviously I haven't figured it out yet. I am evolving towards an answer. But I wanted to bring you guys in on the process because I found that point specifically fascinating. That's why my other friends can eat a chocolate cake and no problems, no pounds. But for me, I have a lot of noise. So my question to you is, what is your noise about food? What is your noise about food? We all have noise. America's obsessed with diets, but as an empath, intuitive, psychic, any kind of spiritual person, let's get down to the nitty gritty. What is your noise about food? So that was interesting. So another thing I wanted to talk about was releasing the resistance to the thought that you hold that is a vibrational set point to your weight. What does that mean? The story I've always told is that I've always been the big girl. I've never not been big. That's not true. We aren't born hundreds of pounds, are we? We are born at a perfect weight. Our body knows how to regulate. Our body's this incredible, healing, and gracious specimen that carries us through this life. I need to find a vibrational match for the way I want to be. I think I'm finding it, but that is a key point that I think any empath needs to know. What are you vibrationally resonating at? For me, it was big girl. That was my story. And then it was, okay, well, if I'm a big girl, I'm going to enhance it and I'm going to do all the things I need to do. You know, I'm going to embrace being a big girl. People always told me I was too much, so I'm going to just be too much. I'm going to be all of the too and all of the much. But I realized that my spirit, my work, my calling in life is way bigger than my body ever has been. And I have been posturing with this fat. Can we talk? I have been pretending that I'm big and strong with this fat, not realizing all the time that I have been growing into a strong and wise person. And it's okay to strip this down and to be something different. It's okay to release it. It's okay to acknowledge the shame, the initial injuries that happen emotionally around food, my noise around food. This is to help others. And that's why I chose this before I came into this time-space reality. I believe we make a choice to pick our own adventure while we're here on Earth. And that's the adventure that it seems like I chose. And that's okay, because I think there's another side. I believe in first half, second half. So the first half was this. The second half's about to be incredible. And I'm so happy to share that journey with you. So to wrap up, the final epiphany that I had that I want to share that just kind of rocked my socks was that food replaced my father, who I had a love-hate relationship with. Thus, I developed a love-hate relationship with food. I've said it. Food replaced my father. When my father wasn't giving me what I needed as love and he was absolutely rejecting me, food would not. And so I replaced it. When he was holding me hostage to eating the way that he felt that I should, or consuming the slimming shakes when I was 7 or 8, I could go binge after that interaction. And as an empath, you might have moments that you recall that were like that. So that was an eye-opening moment for me that even gets me a little emotional right now, because I replaced him with food. He loved to cook. He was a wonderful cook. He was a wonderful party person, kind of entertainer. But I replaced the food for his love and for his affection. So, empaths, what have you replaced? What have you put instead of the real love that you wanted from a person, spouse, a friend, educators, people around you, peers? Have you been feeding yourself? Have you been expanding your adipose tissue, making more baggage for you to carry around in this world? No judgment if you have. I'm so glad to have the conversation with you, because I think that's where we begin, is with a conversation. And that's where I had to begin, with a conversation with myself. I am more than the food I eat. I am more than the shame I have felt. I am here and creative, and I am ever expanding spiritually. It's okay to make amends with the physical expansion. I've done enough of that for this lifetime. And if you feel like you've done enough of that for this lifetime, spend some time in meditation and prayer. Spend some time for 1 second saying, hey, angels, universe, God, source, creator of all, I need real answers to what's going on inside of me, so that I can change what's going on inside of me to match with what I feel, which is happy and joyful with my outside. So we're going to be on this journey together. I will not ramble on anymore, but I wanted to drop those pearls of what I feel like were learned wisdom to you. Some coming from people, some definitely coming from myself. Man, that food and father thing, that was a heavy thing. That was a big thing, but what's your thing? So anyway, thank you so much for watching and sharing this kind of intimate moment, and join me in the next video, and we will continue to evolve together.